I think I'm going to move into a special item that we have today, recognizing our director who is leaving us. This is his very last meeting as the Director of Transportation. Before I get into that presentation, I want to call up Supervisor Aaron Peskin to speak and give his presentation, and then we'll move through the director's presentations, and many others want to recognize you today. Supervisor Peskin.
Thank you, Vice Chair Borden, Commissioners, Director Reiskin, and to the remarkable staff of the SFMTA. My name is Aaron Peskin. I am not here in my capacity as a supervisor. That will happen later. I am here in my capacity as chair of a little-known funding agency called the San Francisco County Transportation Authority, momentarily to be joined by our executive director, Tilly Chang, for the purpose of saying what is rarely said to public, sincere and profound thanks to our outgoing director, Ed Reiskin, and to acknowledge and celebrate his work, his successes, and the fact that I have been a constant pain in his butt. So let's be real. This is the toughest job in San Francisco government. Maybe the second toughest job is the one that Jeff Kaczynski has running the Department of Homelessness, but Ed's is truly the toughest. And I just want to say I've known him in all three of his positions going back to my first tour of duty when he came and made 311 work, which has been a pain in your butts, but has been good for the people of the city and county of San Francisco. I knew him in his incarnation as the head of Public Works, or back in those days we called it the Department of Public Works, where he also excelled. But since 2011, I have mostly been delighted to work with him as he has stewarded the SFMTA. This last Sunday, Ed came to what will clearly be his largest going-away party against his will, where he was joined by some 500 seniors in Chinatown. And I was deeply touched by that. And they wanted to acknowledge what Ed and the SFMTA and its staff have done for low-income communities and for low-income seniors in particular. And I wanted to acknowledge Director Reiskin's calm and humble, lead-by-example nature that I think has been a model for many of the department heads who are here this afternoon. He has consistently demonstrated a sense of duty to build and operate a transportation system that is safe, sustainable, and most importantly, equitable, and I uttered those words on Sunday. Few highlights, I think we all know them. Service levels have increased. I can give you the numbers, but I'm not Gavin Newsom, so I won't delve down into those details. An incredible commitment to Vision Zero, guiding principles for emerging mobility technology, which I sincerely appreciate. I was honored to give you the tools to do that, and I think this agency under Ed's stewardship has done it well. And the passage of a $500 million general obligation bond that we are still spending today. So I apologize for being a pain in your butt, Ed. And most importantly, while he is still under your employee, I ask you, commissioners, to command him at 2:30, this is unexpected, to come downstairs 2 floors to the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, where the entire Board of Supervisors would like to acknowledge you. So that is not within my purview as the author of Proposition A, but it is within your purview for a few more hours. So if you would command your executive director to come downstairs at 2:30, the Board of Supervisors would be honored and delighted. Ed Reiskin, thank you for your service to the people of the city and county of San Francisco. And Ms. Boomer, as they say in a court of law, if I may approach on behalf of the County Transportation Authority, we'd like to grant Ed this.
And Director, if you could just stay there, I think we're going to have a few more things for you. I will, if you will indulge me for a few minutes, I'll just give some more context. I wanted to let the supervisor speak in deference to his meeting at 2 p.m., but as many of you know, for the past 12 years, Ed has demonstrated unwavering devotion to the city and county of San Francisco. First as the director of 311, which Supervisor Peskin mentioned, and then as the director of Public Works prior to joining MTA in 2011. His calm and humble leadership by example has really been a model for our agency and really exemplifies what it means to be a public servant. He has consistently demonstrated a keen sense of personal duty to build and operate a transportation system that's safe, sustainable, and perhaps above all, equitable to all San Franciscans. He's had many notable achievements in his tenure, and I want to talk quite a bit about that, and I might want to thank Supervisor Peskin for already acknowledging some of those, including the increased service levels by more than 10%, the fact that now we have free muni for 115,000 low-income youth, seniors, and people with disabilities. Until recently, we had one of the oldest transit fleets in the United States, and today ours is one of the newest and the greenest fleet. I know that Supervisor Peskin and with the mayor recently introduced some legislation to make all of our transportation greener, but we carry 26% of all of our daily trips in San Francisco, and we generate less than 1% of the city's transportation sector greenhouse gases, which is really quite significant. Muni's rapid network made transit a priority on our streets, and as a result, ridership has continued to grow on rapid routes, and we're bucking national trends, and despite what people think, our numbers are really pretty solid and strong in this city in terms of our transit ridership. Our Transit Effectiveness Project, now known as Muni Forward, was the first comprehensive review of Muni service in a generation, and today Muni Forward is making our transportation safer and more reliable. The city has met and exceeded its goal of 50% trips of all sustainable modes, and that's very much due to the leadership of Ed, who many of you all have seen on his bicycle or taking a Muni bus. In 2014, San Francisco adopted Vision Zero, and while we still have a long way to go and unfortunately even have more bad news at this meeting, we have done a lot of work to make a dramatic reduction in traffic fatalities on our street, and we know we have a long ways to go, but Ed has really been a leader in this regard, and it's very saddening that we don't have better success sometimes in our daily activities. His commitment to inclusive public outreach and engagement now ensures that all San Franciscans have the opportunity to have same projects that impact their communities, and we're only going to grow from that, from the Poets Project that Ed helped make happen. The guiding principles for emerging mobility provide a framework, which Supervisor Peskin just mentioned, to evaluate growing emerging technology and transportation options in San Francisco that support our city policies and our values. And also, as was mentioned, we passed a $500 million bond measure to support transportation infrastructure, and today SFMTA holds the highest credit rating of any transportation agency in the United States, and that's because of his very steady and thoughtful leadership. So Ed, you have done such a tremendous amount for this city in so many capacities. I want to thank you, half of the entire board, and all the riders and people of San Francisco for your steady leadership. You came in at a time when our agency was in a lot of turmoil. You really helped steady the ship. You got things going forward. While we have ways to go, you've brought us milestones away from where we've been. And so I hope that you know that we would not be where we are today without your leadership. And so we have so much faith in you and who you've been to us, and we want to thank you for all your time, your dedication to this city, and we will miss you very dearly. So with that, I want you to, we're going to present you with our wonderful Cable Car Bell Award. In recognition and appreciation of everyday Reiskin's dedication to the agency, its employees, and the people of San Francisco for his tireless efforts to create a transportation system that is safe, sustainable, and above all, equitable. And this is from the Municipal Transportation Agency's Board of Directors. stand there. Well, I guess you can
Gonna have to get a dog.
We have many more people who are here to honor you, Ed. So I want to call next Sean Ellsburn from the mayor's office.
Commissioners, Ed, a lot of wonderful things have been said, but the first thing I'd like to say, I've been standing in the back. I can't remember the last time publicly I saw Supervisor Peskin say such nice things about someone. And I heard him use the phrase, "I'm sorry." I've never heard that. But you, Ed, got that. So even more evidence of how fantastic you've been for the city of San Francisco. Let me just share with everyone in the public. Last Tuesday, the mayor held a department head meeting. She's not here, not in the city today, but on her behalf, let me reiterate what she said to all the department heads with Ed present. How appreciative she is for your tremendous work here at the MTA, but as Supervisor Peskin, as Gwyneth has referred to, your work at 311, your work at the Department of Public Works. You are truly the epitome of a great public servant. The city of San Francisco is lucky to have benefited from your work. And taking off my chief of staff hat, putting on my Sean hat. I hope to still see you on the underground as we ride the rails together. I did enjoy those mornings, maybe not those afternoons when we were stuck there for a while. But Ed, I look forward to seeing you and seeing where the career takes you. All the best and thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Mark Shekel-Bain from the Assemblymember Ting's office, representing our members of the state legislature.
Thank you. So Assembly members Ting and Chu and Senator Wiener are all over at Spur today, or else they would be here. So they sent me instead as the senior district director. So, there's really not much more I can add other than all three of our state legislators wanted to make sure that we took the opportunity to do a joint resolution, and thank you. Public service isn't easy. Managing a city agency with the budget that's the third of the size of UC Berkeley, which has 30,000 employees and 1,500 faculty and 45,000 students. I mean, you have to sort of take that in, the big job that you have had, and having to deal with, angry riders who sometimes call you and complain about bus drivers who almost hit their kid, or ticket machines don't work, and your wonderful staff. And so we just want to thank you on behalf of the California State Assembly for managing the largest transportation system this side of the Mississippi, and what an incredible job you've done. So this is a joint resolution from the California State Legislature to thank you.
You're also joined by a number of department heads, and I'm going to first start actually with Tilly Chang from the Transportation Authority.
Good afternoon, Chair, Board, and Directors. Ed, you are who I wanted to be when I came into this job. I want to be like Ed. I still want to be like Ed. Thank you so much for your partnership, for allowing me to apprentice and partner with you, to learn from you over the past 8 years. We have teamed up on many things on behalf of the city, county of San Francisco, and have been so proud to be your partner, to follow your footsteps and your leadership on things like Muni Forward and Vision Zero and a more sustainable and equitable city. You've contributed all your knowledge from your other posts and brought them to bear on the SFMTA, a unique agency in the nation in terms of our scope here at the SFMTA. Promoting San Francisco's policy vision for cities and innovative street designs and policies and practices, whether it's transit priority or Vision Zero designs, street designs, as I said, or really advocating for a fair and equitable and smart new mobility policy for the city and practice. Ed is a fierce advocate, as you all know, not only for Muni, but all transit in the region and beyond. He's been working regionally to advocate for funding and for all the core capacity needs of our region. He's been leading at the national level on transit, and also as president of NACTO, really exporting the practices and the best of our work across the country and internationally as well. Nationally, there's been a following of your leadership and of the city's good work, and I feel like that impact with the Vision Zero work especially is exciting to see, and given how pressing that work is. You've helped lead multi-agency initiatives together with us on such as Connect SF, Transportation Sustainability Project, and a whole host of capital projects. Of course, Central Subway, Market Street, Venice, Geary, all those good things and more to come. So thank you, Ed, again, for your commitment to San Francisco and to our industry and to your leadership. Although you have arguably the toughest job in the city, you've always stayed optimistic and somehow made time in your busy schedule for people, whether it's the board, whether it's staff, whether it's partners like ourselves at the TA. It's been a real pleasure, and we'll miss working alongside you. Please don't go far, and we look forward to your next steps. Thank you.
I'm going to call next Supervisor Sandra Fewer, but if I can ask everyone next to the doors to move to the other side of the room. Unfortunately, it's a fire hazard if you're blocking the exit doors.
Hello, Commissioners. I wanted to extend my deepest appreciation for all that Ed Reiskin has contributed to the agency and to the city. Ed has been a true and tireless public servant for the residents of San Francisco for the past 12 years. Many of us know him best through his role as Director of Transportation at SFMTA, but Ed has also served as the Director of 311 and Director of Public Works, agencies that are crucial to the backbone of San Francisco and the nuts and bolts of operations that literally keep San Francisco running. Directing an agency like SFMTA is nothing short of absolutely demanding. I have seen Director Reiskin lead with kindness, a steady hand, with a combination of heart and determination in delivering transportation improvements for the city, and especially our most transit-dependent and low-income communities in the city. I appreciate that Ed has always been willing to listen, not just to my opinion as a supervisor, but to join community forums and late-night evening meetings with neighbors to have real, robust conversations about transportation policy and how decisions around transportation policies impacted everyday experience of my residents. Perhaps what I remember most about first meeting Ed is that his suit was a little long for him. And I looked at him from behind and I thought, this reminds me a little of Mayor Ed Lee. I love the fact that you are so humble. I love the fact that you are so open and kind to people that you meet, even people who actually in my district gave you a very, very hard time, but always so gracious, always so kind, and always so patient, steadfast, absolutely, and determined, actually, to always bridge friendships and bridge relationships. So, Ed, there is more to be said, but I know that you're going to join myself and my colleagues at 2:30, where we can fully recognize your achievement and everything that you've done for the city and county of San Francisco. I personally wanted to say thank you, Ed, for serving my district, but all of San Francisco, too. Thank you.
I'm going to call our Chief Administrator, Naomi Kelly.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Naomi Kelly, City Administrator. I have to say, I was then City Purchaser when the City Administrator, Ed Lee, and Deputy City Administrator, Ben Rosenfeld, hired Ed to be the 311 Director. And I'm telling you, when he came in, I realized he was a great person. He became a mentor. He became a friend. A lot of the major decisions that I made when I was city purchaser, and even when I became the city administrator, Ed was one of the very first phone calls I made. And his wisdom, his guidance on how to manage just at the 30,000-foot level, how to dive into the weeds and jump back out to the 30,000-foot level, how to manage our colleagues, how to manage boards, how to manage the workforce. And you have been such a true friend and has helped me as I became the city administrator. So thank you for that. It's also been great just to see how you've moved the traffic within San Francisco, especially during major events, World Series, just any other events. And there's been times where we've been on Muni when after the World Series 2012, and I thought it was one of the funniest moments. Harlan and I are getting on a bus, or getting on a train, the N Judah to go back to the west side of town, and the train stops, and everyone, it luckily was at a platform, and everyone files out, and we stay on there, and we look to the back, and there's Ed and his daughter. They're on the Muni, waiting to see how long it takes to get this train back up and running. Of course, my husband turns around and says, "Ed, you should have your tool belt on fixing this train." But it's just a testament to like always thinking how to make and improve the city, how to make it better, how can we better serve the residents and visitors and businesses of the city. And thank you for your time here, and we'll all be looking for you to still be active and part of San Francisco, and we'll be thinking of ways to pull you back in. So thank you.
And we have our Director of Rec and Parks, Phil Ginsburg.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thanks for giving me a few minutes. Well, Ed, you can at last become the vocal park advocate you've always wanted to be. I look forward to your emails and complaints. I too was around in 2007 working for then Mayor Newsom when Ed came on as 311 director, and immediately, like so many people have said, we all wanted to be like Ed. If you look at the arc of Ed's career, just in San Francisco, from 311 to Public Works to MTA, and then you go back a little bit and know that in DC he worked on criminal justice issues and was an advisor to a mayor, and in Oakland he was an assistant city, or worked for the city administrator. There's not a position in government that Ed can't play. And so it was MTA's blessing that Ed took on this Herculean responsibility. And Ed, you're a mensch. You just are. You're just a flat-out mensch. You are kind and humble and thoughtful, but an incredibly talented leader. Bruce Bochy used to talk about level 5 leadership as a manager, where it's not about you, it's about your team, and it's about the mission of the organization. And that's always been you. And it is amazing. We are a close bunch of department heads are actually a pretty close bunch of colleagues, and we do rely on each other, and we need each other. And government works because we can solve problems together. And there's never a time when Ed won't didn't pick up a phone and help me work through a problem or vice versa. And Ed's level of curiosity is not about government and desire to make government work is not limited to his own function. It was not just limited to MTA. I got to see Ed on the Capital Planning Committee, or back in the day, SF Stat. Ed is genuinely curious and caring about all functions of government. And so it's just, we've been on a journey together, and our relationship will continue well beyond your last day here when you officially become a vocal park advocate. But it was important to me to say thank you, and not just for being an incredibly caring, thoughtful human being, but as Supervisor Fewer noted, you're the only colleague that I've ever worked with in city government who actually makes me look well-dressed and tailored. So I'm very grateful to you for all of that. Thank you, Ed.
Now we'll have our Planning Director, John Ram.
Thank you, board members. It's great to be here, and thank you for doing this and allowing us all to recognize Ed. If I know Ed, and I think I know you a little bit, I think you're probably sitting there saying, "I wish this would be over with," right? I just want to reiterate something that Phil said, and we often. But first, Supervisor Peskin's comment about who has the toughest job in city government, we have that debate a lot, actually, amongst the department heads. And while I think of my job as being pretty high on that list, I think I have to concede that MTA director is probably the toughest job that I'm aware of in city government. So this has not been an easy haul. But I will say, and just to kind of pick up on something that Phil just said, the thing that I've always appreciated about you, Ed, is your kind of perspective on the city as a whole. I remember the very first department head meeting I went to with Mayor Newsom at the time, and he asked each of us to make a comment about our roles and about who we were, and I had been here all of 2 weeks or something at the time. And Ed's comment was something that has always stuck with me, and it basically about his passion for cities and his passion for doing this work. And to me, you've always been the definition of a public servant. And I've appreciated that very much. And when I think about your comments and questions at Capital Planning or the Directors Working Group or other venues where all the directors are together, I think about kind of your perspective on the city as a whole and what our role is and what we should be doing with our work. So I just want to thank you for that, for being a mentor to me in that respect, and for kind of for your kind of generosity and your humility as we do our work. So thank you and all the best.
Thank you. And I know there are members of the executive team that wanted to speak. Kate? That's right, SFMTA executive team representatives?
Yes, good afternoon. Kate Breen, Director of Government Affairs. Kind of batting cleanup, but sounds like in the next hour you're going to have more of this. On behalf of the SFMTA executive team, and I, having known Ed for, we figured, 20 years at this point, I'm here today to express our gratitude and appreciation to Ed for his leadership and support during the past 8 years. And what I'm struck by with everybody's comments is this consistency of the qualities that I'm going to talk about. There is no wavering on this, the depth of these qualities and characteristics that Ed has shared with us as our leader. As we considered the qualities that Ed has demonstrated, it was easy to craft, very easy and very quickly, a lengthy list that will fully qualify him for a coveted SFMTA GEM Award, which you'll be getting. You always wanted it, you know that. As our director, Ed has always led with his values first, including mutual respect, a dedication to equity, sustainability, and fundamental ethics, with qualities that are more impactful in how they are modeled by the person rather than expressed in words. Ed is thoughtful, fair, and kind. We know this. Ed's intelligence is peerless, and combined with a remarkable photographic memory and penchant for every detail, we could always anticipate getting thoughtful questions on any topic. Working with him made us all better at what we did every day. Ed leads by example. He rides the ride. He walks the talk. As a daily Muni rider, he lives transit first combined with his other favorite personal modes of transport, walking and biking. In doing so, he is not only fit, but deeply familiar with the fabric of the city and the community that he and his family are proudly part of. What do you not know about Ed? You may not know that during his time at the SFMTA, Ed has become a dog owner and lover. But to our knowledge, he has not taken his dogs on Muni yet. Leading with calm and grace, not with bluster and drama, Ed has maintained an open-door policy to all staff all the time and served as counsel with wisdom and patience. His accomplishments have been cited here. I won't repeat them. I'm sure they will be repeated again downstairs. They are many and important for the city. Ed, on behalf of your executive team, thank you for being our leader for the past 8 years, for being there to support us and allow us to do our best work, for making the hard decisions, even when they were politically treacherous, and for your dedication to the SFMTA and the people of San Francisco. The city is truly better for your service. So,
And Ed, your senior staff has one final gift for you, which perhaps you saw was coming. This is the classic MTA going away gift, for those of you who don't. And for all the support you've given us here at the MTA, but also for everything you've done to build the Complete Streets movement around the country, your leadership in reinvigorating NACTO, being the president of NACTO for 2 years, helping us start Cacti, an organization of transportation officials here in California. Your influence has spread far beyond the 49 square miles, and let this street sign be a small token of our appreciation for that as well.
Now we're going to ask our police chief, Bill Scott, to join us, and followed by Supervisor Valley Brown. So, and then Joaquin Torres.
And if we could have people just stand away from the doors, please. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me a few minutes to speak to the board and to Ed Reiskin. So on behalf of the San Francisco Police Department, as you guys all know, we are vital partners in the movement of traffic and the traffic safety in the city with the MTA. And during my time here, I just want to thank you, Ed, for your approach to how you do what you do. Always just very measured, very calm, and but you always get the job done. So I just want to thank you, on behalf of the men and women of the San Francisco Police Department. Thank you for your service and your dedication to this city and county, and for your friendship. So thank you.
And then next we'll have Supervisor Valley Brown.
Well, Ed, I'm the cautionary tale. And it had nothing to do with not a protected bike lane. And it was actually my fault. I was trying to go fast to beat a light. And when I came up to the intersection, I realized this is a stupid thing to do. So I slammed on my brakes and put my leg down and my knee went a little, I tweaked it. I'm good though, I'm absolutely good, just have to be off of it for a couple days. But I just wanted to come, and I know you're gonna come to the Board of Soups today and we're going to talk about you, but I wanted to come up here, well, it's all good. I wanted to come up here with the commissioners because I've worked with you for a long time when you were the director of Public Works and then MTA. And I just heard Chief Scott say you were always calm, and you always were. No matter who was yelling at you or rattling the chains, you came back and said, hey, let's try to make this work. And for a city leader in a department, that is so important to us on the Board of Supervisors or residents of the city. We want to see someone in that position that tries and works to make it work for the best outcome we can have for the residents of San Francisco. And so I wanted to come up here and just thank you for all the years that you've been serving this city. And I'm not sure where you're going. I hope it's not too far, because this city really needs people like you. And it needs people like you to keep us in a mode where we do the right thing. So thank you very much, Ed, and I'll see you downstairs. Thank you.
Now we'll have Director Torres, our Head of Economic Development.
Commissioners, Madam Chair, and to you, Ed, on a personal note, it's been an amazing experience for me to be able to learn from you, your sense of humility, the steady leadership that so many people have talked about, your willingness to be on the ground with people in the community, whether we talk about merchants or residents or visitors here in San Francisco. Your steady hand and guidance to me when I've had issues that I need some help trying to delve into. Establishing racial equity guidelines and goals and extraordinary staff to come into the department to support those efforts really has been an inspiration to me as I've assumed this new leadership role as well. And so all the work that you've done to partner with our office to increase workforce opportunities for drivers to help meet a city need and also a very real community need for people who could have been impacted economically and now will have a successful passage and transition into steady city employment with all the benefits that it provides in your organization. It really is an honor to have spent 10 years knowing you both as Public Works Director, dealing with the most intricate of issues, and as leadership as Director of Muni, and really being out there with you in community, on the ground. And I will take all the lessons that you've given to me and put them to hard work in my future years. So thank you so much, Ed.
I believe we have all the members of the city family who wanted to say a few words. Am I correct? With that, we now open it up to public comment, and we welcome you. Everyone has 2 minutes to embarrass Ed a little more. Do we have any speaker cards?
I don't have any speaker
No
cards.
problem. All right.
This wasn't on the agenda.
Nope. Perfect.
Vice Chair Borden, directors, Director Reiskin. My name is Rick Lobsher. I'm president of Market Street Railway. We're the nonprofit preservation partner of SFMTA. Our board chair, Carmen Clark, really wanted to be here today, but she's under the weather, so she's asked me to share her remarks as well. Our organization has been supporting Muni for 40 years. That's a lot of directors. When I first met Ed Reiskin 8 years ago, the only thing we asked is that he be honest with us. Tell us where he agreed, where he didn't, what might be possible, what wasn't. In other words, open communication and fair dealing sounds pretty basic, but it hasn't often been true in the past. With Ed, it was. We accomplished a lot of positive things, but I won't enumerate now, and we appreciate that. And though we focus on Muni's cable cars and historic streetcars and buses in our organization's work, we are passionate about the success of SFMTA as a whole. We've been transit first advocates for decades, and we know a lot about how SFMTA works, and sometimes why it doesn't work as well as we'd all like. That's why we want to thank Ed for his leadership in every area of SFMTA's responsibilities. You, as a board, have made an excellent choice, in our view, in Tom McGuire as the interim director. You face a daunting decision in finding a permanent director who can match up to the standards Ed Reiskin has set for humble yet passionate service, for collaboration, and for the love of his city and transportation networks. Thank you, Ed, a great public servant, a great San Franciscan.
Marta Lindsay will be next.
Walk San Francisco wants to share our heartfelt gratitude to Ed Reiskin for his incredible dedication both to public service and to pedestrians. Ed, you were absolutely instrumental in getting the city to adopt Vision Zero in 2014, and you have always taken the goal of ending severe and fatal traffic crashes to heart. You stood with us at deadly crash sites, and you've stood up for the most vulnerable on our streets, and you have worked tirelessly to move our city closer to the pedestrian-first city it can and should be. Thank you for walking the walk, truly, and all you have done to create a safer and more sustainable transportation city here. We wish you the best.
Thank you, Vice Chair Borden and directors. Brian Wiedenmeyer, Executive Director of the San Francisco Bicycle Coalition, and on behalf of our over 10,000 members, I would like to recognize and thank Director Reiskin for your service to the city, and in particular to your service to people who bike in this city. Much has been made about the difficulty of this role, and I know it's been my job to not make your job easier, but to make it more difficult at times. But I do want to say that I have always respected your commitment and never doubted your values in this role, and that while we sometimes have to push, I always knew that you would be a receptive listener, and I do appreciate that you peddled the talk in a very fashionable, high-vis, fluorescent green safety vest, one of my favorite biking accessories that I've seen out on the streets of San Francisco. So thank you for your service. I do think civil service too often goes unrecognized, and directors, you will have a difficult job ahead of you in selecting a replacement. Thank you.
So if people want to address under this topic, if they could line up on this side of the room, and we'll just take you one by one.
I'm going to cut Tom Gilberti. I just wanted to say I'm part of the I Like Ed Club, okay?
Whoever's next, please.
Thank you so much, Martin Kaczynski. I'm a taxi driver. Don't know what to say. Sounds like Mr. Reiskin is a saint, but I'm just not a part of the Ed Reiskin Like Club. I think I speak for the taxi drivers. Most of us are refugees and immigrants, the people like me on the very bottom of the food chain. And all I can say is that Mr. Reiskin was part of the dividing us, making two categories of taxi drivers at the airport. Basically, he wanted to make us pay for his mistakes of selling taxi medallions to immigrants and refugees like me for $250,000. And unfortunately, he asked us to pay for it. And I think that's a big character flaw. And I'm so happy you're here so I can tell you this to your face. And, you know, we learn very early in life not to pick up on the weak people and not to abuse the less fortunate. And unfortunately, I think that you haven't learned that. I see people giving you a lot of gifts here, and I have a T-shirt which says Taxi Driver Lives Matter. If I knew that I can give you this gift, I would bring one extra, because otherwise I have to take this off and give it to you. But I don't want to expose my fat body to you. Thank you so very much, okay?
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair, Board, and members. Alita Dupree for the record. I feel I must speak. I am grateful. You know, it was just, and I come to you as an ordinary, everyday rider of Muni. And I've been fortunate to know Ed. We've met up a couple of times in stations and had brief conversations. And I'm also grateful for Ed's service as Vice Chair of the Clipper Executive Board, which is a program I'm very passionate about. And so as I close here, a few days ago, I was in the Van Ness station. I came down the stairs, and I ran into Ed. And we talked a bit. Went on my way, went downstairs, and waited for a train. And I let a couple of those new Muni cars go by, and then I got on one. And I rode to the Embarcadero, and everything ran well. Just one after another, those cars went through the station. And when I left Embarcadero later, and walked up into the sun, I just said to myself, it doesn't get any better than this. Ed, that's how I'm going to remember you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Board. Howard Strassner. I came here to thank Ed. I thought I was going to do it as part of his director's report, but you're doing it now, and so glad you're making this big to deal because it really is great. So I want to thank him for his service. And normally when we say that, we think of people dodging bulletin bombs in Iraq and Afghanistan. But Ed did more than that. I first met him, he was standing there in a mission, a big meeting in the mission where people wanted more parking. And Ed knew that was wrong, and he kind of soft-talked them and compromised them down to a very little. I think they were going to get the parking lot they were going to get anyway and give them and nothing else. So I think that was great. And during the years of his service here, leaning into transit first, never enough. But what can we say? We still have to keep the job. We have to keep Muni moving. So thank you very much, Ed. We appreciate it. Thank you. Oh, and before, don't only be a park advocate, be a transit advocate when you're in your next life. Thank you.
Next speaker, please. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? You don't have to be in line. You can get up and speak if you'd like to. If not, we're going to close out public comment and move on to our rest of our calendar. I want to ask the directors too, of course. Public comment is closed then, seeing no other additional speakers. Directors, who would like to start?
I'll start. I never knew Ed till Ed Lee told me about you. And to have me serve on this board with you as director. And everything Ed said about you is absolutely true. And vis-a-vis the people that are here representing your agency and how they treat you is indicative of who you are as a man and a human being, and clearly as the head of this agency. But you also bring a humility and a sense of humbleness that I rarely have seen in a director of such a large agency. And when we sat down with almost a majority of the bargaining units last week to talk about and to receive their comments about what they would like to see in a new director. Without question, almost every one of them said to have the same qualities of humanness as Ed. So you've made an impact not only on your own employees, on your bargaining unit leadership, but on so many of us. And on a personal note, I just want to thank you for being so kind to my son, Joaquin. You have been an excellent teacher and mentor for him, and he and I have always talked about how humble and how supportive you have been of his efforts in a very difficult position. So I thank you for that as a father and also as a director. And of course, I wish you all the best, Ed.
Thank you. Christina? No.
I just want to say thank you so much for all your service that everyone's already said. Particularly, I wanted to say thank you for really listening to the disability community and just having such respect for that perspective in doing your job. So thank you especially for that, but thank you for all the things that everyone else is talking about. And best of luck.
Amanda, Director Aiken, you want to?
Ed, thank you so much. The city is a better place because of you.
I'm the rookie on the board, but I've known Ed since the first day he took the job. And that's because from that day till this, we did a lot of regional business together. And Ed was unfailingly instructive in engaging in those conversations. A lot of his colleagues were only about, how big of a hunk of meat can I fry off the carcass and take home? And Ed was smart enough to know that if you advocate for good policy, that it happens to allow San Francisco to take a big chunk out of that carcass. And he got the job done very well that way. I'd also like to echo the comments I've heard from some about your national goal, Evergreen Trail, which I think has not only helped the city, but helped cities across the country. In closing, I did want to mention one characteristic that I haven't heard discussed yet, and that's that sort of hang-dog look that you have. And I've always just personally thought Ed's a little too gloomy. And now that you're leaving the MTA, we're going to find out whether that gloominess was the job or it's just you. Give me a hint. Best of luck.
Any final comments before we close and move on to our next agenda item?
Yeah, I'll just say that I echo everything that's been said, and I don't need to say it again, but I think you've got an invaluable perspective having had this position for so many years, and even though you're leaving, I hope you find a way to stay connected to the agency and keep sharing all the wisdom and knowledge you've accumulated over the years, because I think we would be at a great loss if that wasn't the case. Thank you for your service.
And Ed, would you like to say a few words? You don't have to say a few words, but if you would like to say a few words, I do want to offer you that opportunity.
Well, I guess I would first say that I believe that one of the responsibilities I've had in this role is to develop the agendas for the board meetings. And I don't recall seeing this item on the agenda.
Sorry.
I'm contemplating filing a Sunshine Ordinance Task Force complaint. And I'll have lots of time to think about doing that. So I may do that. I don't know what to say. It's been just beyond amazing honor and privilege to be able to serve in this role for so many reasons. It's an amazing city that we live in. It's an amazing transportation system we have. It's an amazing region. The people of the city, whether the advocates, the civic leaders, just your everyday people who don't come to City Hall, have such passion and love and commitment for this city. That it's inspiring. But, for all of the good things that people said got done within the last 8 years, those got done primarily because of the staff of the SFMTA, and not just the people who are here now, but the people who have been here. It's an amazingly talented, dedicated, skilled, professional, passionate group of folks, thousands of employees. Not every single one of them, but the great majority really are what inspire me, because they care about their work. They take pride in their work, whether they're cleaning the subway station floor or driving a bus or fixing a bus or directing traffic or working in the back office. A lot of unsung heroes in the agency. There's so many people who work so hard to make, and they're why all those good things happen. that and the leadership of this board and your predecessors. There's been a lot of things that we have brought you that have not been maybe politically popular or easy for you to contemplate. But with your direction and leadership, there's a lot of good things that have happened in San Francisco for transportation. There's some things that haven't happened well as we'd like, and I'm going to talk about some of them when it gets to my report, which was properly agendized.
And is next.
And is next. And, you know, ultimately, as the director of the agency, the things that have not gone wrong, those are on me. But all of the good things that have happened, that's the staff of this agency, that's your leadership, it's the support from the other electeds who work in this building. I do want to acknowledge my executive team. I've got an outstanding team that works very closely and well together, and they have the hardest jobs. It's just my job to support them in doing their hard jobs. I want to acknowledge the other department heads. I think one of them said we do work closely together. The other transit agency leaders in the region. There's a lot of different kind of areas of collaboration that may not be apparent, but are really what make all of this work. I want to acknowledge your other employee, our board secretary, who's been my partner in this for my 8 years here. I want to thank her for all of her efforts. Our general counsel and her staff are a big part of keeping us out of trouble. And I also want to thank Sophia, my assistant, for my time here. None of anything you heard would have happened if it weren't for her. She's the one who really has probably the hardest job and makes everything happen. And then finally, my family, my kids, my wife, who give me the support and the advice. My wife's from the city, so she always is making sure that I don't do anything to mess it up. And for kind of allowing me the time and space to do this work. But it's just such a great honor to be able to serve in this role. And I'm very confident in Tom and whoever comes next that hope whoever it is will just build upon what's working well, and we'll fix those things that still need to be fixed. But there's a great foundation here. There's a great staff, and I hope, and we'll still be riding the bus every day, still be on my bike or taking taxis. That's how I get around the city. So I will continue to benefit from the good work that you all do. So thank you.
Thank you.